Ever wondered what separates a safe flight from a close call? Well, it's not just skill, it's mindset. And in aviation, the real danger isn't always the weather or the engine, it's what you didn't see coming. Hello and welcome to AB Helicopters, and today we're talking about threat and error management, TEM. And it's the invisible safety net that every pilot should know about, and more importantly, how you can actually use it. Whether you're flying solo or with a crew, TEM helps you spot trouble before it starts and fix mistakes before they matter. TEM, Threat and Error Management, is the safety framework that was developed to help pilots identify and manage risks before they become incidents. And it's not just for airline crews, it's as relevant for private pilots and recreational flyers just as much as it is for professionals. In simple terms, TEM is about recognizing what could go wrong and spotting when something is going wrong and knowing how to respond effectively before you hit an unintentional aircraft state. It's a safety concept that first developed in the late 1990s, and it was developed by the University of Texas as a part of a human factors research project. And it's about being proactive and prepared rather than reactive. And in the world of aviation, threats are considered as external factors that can affect the safety of a flight, whereas errors are mistakes made by the pilot. Whilst it was initially adopted by commercial airlines, TEM became the cornerstone of crew resource management, and its principles apply to any sort of flying operation. Helicopter operations, though, especially for private pilots and single pilot operations, present unique challenges. The dynamic environment, varying weather conditions, complex maneuvers that require a high level of situational awareness and decision-making skills, the fact that helicopters operate often from unprepared landing sites where there's more obstacles in the vicinity. TEM helps pilots anticipate and mitigate these challenges and overall enhancing safety. So let's go into threats. Threats are external factors: weather, terrain, aircraft traffic. For example, you're flying in mountainous terrain with unpredictable weather and you're not particularly aware of the localized conditions. Errors, on the other hand, are mistakes made by the pilot, such as miscommunication, incorrect instrument readings, or incorrectly performing a maneuver. For example, allowing the aircraft to get slow on an approach below 30 knots or so with a high rate of descent. That's an error. And another example would be misinterpreting a weather report, thinking the weather's going to clear, or not recognizing that potentially you are flying into forecasted fog, for example. And if you have a threat and or an error, it can lead to an undesired aircraft state, a UAS. And that's when the aircraft is in an unstable condition. So hovering too close to an obstacle, or in the previous example, if you make a mistake during your approach and you let the speed decrease and the rate of descent increase, you're putting yourself into all the perfect conditions for vortex ring state. That would be a UAS. So let's have a look at how TEM works in practice for a flight. A basic one: pre-flight planning. The threat, the weather forecast shows marginal VFR conditions. So what's the management? Well, you can delay the flight, choose an alternative route, and brief the passengers on possible contingencies. Set a no-go tone, for example. Take that pressure off the flight itself. How about actually in flight, navigating itself? Well, how about an error? You misidentify a landmark, you drift off course. Well, your management is you could set up beforehand the route on a handheld GPS or one built into the aircraft, reorientate at certain points across the route with VORs that you have during the pre-flight stage highlighted, and correct the track promptly before the error becomes a real problem for you. Number 3. Passenger distractions. A passenger asks a question during a critical phase of flight, for example, during landing or when you're working your way through busy airspace. So the management brief passengers beforehand about the concept of sterile cockpit rules during takeoff and landing, and perhaps advise them that whilst you're about to speak to Heathrow to get a transit through the zone or the heli routes, for example, please, just for a moment, you need a little bit of quiet in the cockpit. And use case number 4, fatigue. You were up the night before, perhaps with family or with work, or you weren't feeling great, had a lot on your mind. Either way, self-assess your fitness to fly. Use that I'm safe checklist: illness, medication, stress, alcohol, fatigue, and emotion, or eating. You see different varieties, and consider postponing the flight. Now, TEM matters because it really encourages a proactive mindset, especially during the pre-flight planning, where you start to think about each phase of the flight, what could go wrong, and how are you going to think about the mitigations when you've got plenty of headspace to come up with those, so that when it does start to diverge from the plan in flight, you already have put the effort into coming up with suitable alternative options. It's important to point out that neither threats or errors automatically lead to accidents, but if unmanaged, they can. It's all about being prepared. By anticipating the threats, recognizing the errors early, you can make safer decisions and enjoy flying with confidence. So hopefully you found this very short introduction helpful. Give it a thumbs up. And if you would like to read more about TEM, well, the CAA, EASA and other authorities have a load of valuable information, and I'll provide links below for you to read. Until next time, fly safe and thank you for watching.